Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about rupture cards, or cards that have a rupture like effect for Fi. Kind of give my thoughts on them, kind of go a little bit more in specifics on each card, and just like my overall thoughts. This was a video that I've been talking about with one of my buddies in my Discord. So if you guys want to join the Discord down below, we're almost at 200 members, which is insane. If whether you're a Ninja player or not, doesn't matter. Definitely join. Check it out. Let us know what you think. But yeah, I wanted to kind of get into these cards because the more I've played with Fi, the more I realize like these cards make or break Fi, which, some people will say was like, well, duh, right? It's kind of obvious. Like Fi wants to play these cards at the end of his chain and kind of, really raise the power level of the deck. But the more that I've played Fi, the more I've realized that these cards can really make or break you from a consistency standpoint, not just a power standpoint. So I wanted to kind of give my thoughts on them and kind of tell you like what I think as far as power level and like what the cards do and like how the interactions are and kind of like just give my two thoughts on it. Um, One thing I wanted to give a caveat on this is it's build specific, right? Like the easiest card to give an example of is Phoenix Form, right? There's some decks where Phoenix Form is really good because the whole deck plays around it. It's really obvious what you're trying to do. You're trying to get that pop off Phoenix Form turn off like Inflame and Spreading Flames or Rise from the Ashes or something like that. That's really good for this. But then there's some decks where Phoenix Form's just a dead card in your hand, and then there's some decks where you're trying to make it work, but it's really not that great. And we'll kind of talk about that as we go along, but just to kind of give an example. So not all these cards have the word rupture on them. Some of them are just what I call rupture like cards, right? So we have Take the Tempo, Salt the Wound, which are like the not actual rupture cards. Then actual rupture cards, we have Lava Burst, Rise Up, Searing Touch, not Burn Away, goodness, Breaking Point, and Phoenix Form. The one I did not put in here is Red Hot. And I'll kind of talk about that initially, I guess. I don't think Red Hot's a Fi card. It's really good in limited, but I just don't think you should run it in CC or Blitz with him. Maybe Blitz, maybe. But the card's just hard to pay for at the end of a chain, and it really forces you to have to really make your line really limited in what you're allowed to do. I just don't like that 2 cost at the end of a chain personally. So that's why I didn't include it in this list. So these are the ones I see as like viable 5 rupture cards. I don't see Red Hot as a viable consistent option. It's just going to limit the consistency of your deck. And we'll kind of talk about why as we go through other rupture cards. The main point of rupture cards is, in my opinion, like if you think about rupture cards in any way, regardless of your build or your deck, I think you have to think about how does this card affect my consistency, right? What is its floor? What is its ceiling? But also, what is its middle ground, right? And like, how does that affect my deck? Can the card be played in multiple different ways? Does the card being in my hand affect what type of line I can play, right? Does it allow for flexibility in my lines? Because one thing with Fi is, especially as people playing more and more, people are going to understand like what's coming next and how to block you. And if your rupture cards are very linear and force you to have linear lines, then it's going to lower the overall difficulty of playing against you, and it's going to help your opponents, especially if you're playing like the same opponents at an armory or even like a RTN or a ProQuest, like people that know you, like they're going to know your deck a little bit better and be able to plan around your turns. Anyway, we'll kind of get into what I see as like the obvious like no question they should be in your deck um type rupture cards, and for me that's Lava Burst and Salt the Wound. These two are the number one like rupture style cards that should be in your deck. Lava Burst is number one by far. It's just the best value rupture card. It's a 0 for 5. You can play it on a 3-card hand with Ember Blade. You can play it on a 3-card hand with Kadachis. Doesn't matter. It doesn't need Draconic Links. It's just a 0 for 5. It can be snapped. It's a 3 block. Like it hits all the wickets. And when you couple this with Salt the Wound, which in my opinion is also a necessary 5 card, it's a 0 cost. So if you're a Kadachi build, you can pitch it. It's a 3 block. Most of the time in 5, this is going to come in for 4. It could come in for 5. I think the most I've ever had Salt the Wound come in for is 8. Off 6 links hitting, which was pretty nutty. Off like a massive draw turn. So it's just really, really, really good. especially if you're doing a Kadachi build. And personally, with these two cards together, this is my main snap target. Like I keep getting a lot of questions of like, what do you snap? Like, what do you use Snapdragon Scalers for? Ideally, what I'm trying to do is 4 links. Have one of these in Arsenal. I play a Lava Burst for 5, right? And snap it, and then play like Assault the Wound for 5 or 6 again, right? That's ideally what I'm trying to do. And if I can do it off a Spreading Flames turn, it's even better. And then on top of that, these are 2-power Rupture cards, so they can be used with Shuko. So if you don't even play a Phoenix Flame, if you play a Lava Burst for 5, snap it, and then you play Salt the Wound, it's going to get +1 for Shuko. And then damage can't be prevented. These are just the 2 like S tier Rupture cards. Should never come out of the deck. I don't care what kind of build you are. You should run these cards. That's just my opinion. Gaining into like the, I guess, tier 1.5 cards, it's really hard. I guess in my opinion, there's only one tier 1.5 Rupture card, and that's Breaking Point. Breaking Point's really good. The ceiling is really high on this card because it can threaten Arsenal. It's basically a mini Command and Conquer. And at worst, it's a 1 for 5. You could literally play this on Chainlink 2. You won't get its effect, but it's coming in for 5 damage, right? So just a really good card. Doesn't affect your play lines. Doesn't cause you to have to like play differently or weird. Just really good. That's what the one thing I love about all 3 of these cards is when I see one of them in my hand, I don't have to like maneuver my line to make it work, right? It's just going to naturally fit in with any line I try to do in my hand 9 times out of 10, and it's just really good. So these are the 3 like main ones. For tier 2, and I don't mean tier 2 in like a negative way, but just like tier 2 in my opinion is Rise Up and Phoenix Form. Talking about Rise Up I think is slightly above Phoenix Form. People are going to call me crazy for this, and that's fine. But Rise Up's so good when it does work because at worst, most of the time, it's a 1 for 5 dominate. No go again, but a 1 for 5 dominate. At good / best, most of the time, it's a 1 for 7 dominate. So against like Guardians, against Dash, against anybody that's trying to fatigue you out, Icelander maybe, if you can pay for it, this is a really good card. I definitely suggest using it. Now, I think that this card may not be a 3 of, maybe it's a 2 of. Because that 1 cost is a little bit much, especially if you have a lot of other 1 cost in your deck. For me, what I've seen with most 5 builds in my 5 build, I don't think you should have more than 15 1 cost cards in your deck. That's just my opinion. 18 is pushing it, but you should really have 15, and that's including your Art of Wars. So really, you only have 12 1 cost attacks. That includes Rupture cards and natural go again cards. So Rise Up, if it fills that slot, it fills that slot, but it's just something to think about. Phoenix Form is weird. Now, this is the one that's going to be most controversial. I'll probably get someone in the comments talking about it. This card's a trap. It's just a trap. And I'll tell you why. At worst, like people's argument is, well, at worst, it's a 0 for 3 go again. Technically true. At best, it's a 0 for 5 go again on hit draw 3 cards, which I can tell you right now in 30, 40 games playing this card, I got that off like twice. And I didn't have a deck that was completely built around it, but I did have Flame Calls. I did have Rise from the Ashes. I have my own like Phoenix Flame Recursion. I know how to set the card up. It's just harder to do that. I think the best turn I've ever had for this actually was when I played it on the 6th chain for 0 for 5 go again. They couldn't block it out. I drew into another Phoenix Form and played 0 for 5 go again. So I had 0 for 10 go again. That was pretty dope. But overall, the reason I don't like this card is it because it limits your play lines and forces you to have to do something that you don't want to do. And I'm going to try to give an example of this because I feel like it's needed. So just bear with me as far as like letting me give you this example. So let's say we draw into this. Not an ideal hand, right? Or you know what? Not even that bad. Let's say we draw into this. I think this is a reasonable example. Let's say we draw into a Rise from the Ashes. We have no arsenal. Rise from the Ashes, Salt the Wound, Phoenix Form, and a blue. It can be any blue. Doesn't matter. When you draw into something like this, your play line is super limited. You can play Rise from the Ashes, go get your Phoenix Form, your next Draconic or Ninja attack gets +3. The problem is you have no starter. Phoenix Form does not have go again right now. You're going to have to play your Phoenix Flame first. And then you play it for 3. Then you play Phoenix Form for 0 for 3 go again. Okay, not bad. Then you swing with Ember, right? Then you can go get another Phoenix Flame. Not terrible, right? But you're not getting the best use of this card, and it forces you. What I'm trying to say is like the line itself isn't that bad, or you play Phoenix Flame for 3, swing with Ember, then play Phoenix Form if you want. However you want to do your line. The problem is it forces you to do the line that way. You cannot do it any other way. You have to play when you. What I'm trying to say is it doesn't even have to be Rise from the Ashes. It could be any card that doesn't have natural go again, like an Art of War, maybe. Not even an Art of War, but if you draw into like maybe another Rupture card or something like that, it really limits your play lines and basically forces you to have to play a certain line, and it doesn't give you flexibility. Even with a starter in hand, right? I basically have to play this Ember, Ember for 3, use my last resource to go get a Phoenix Flame, play Phoenix Form 0 for 3, go again. Not that bad, but it really, I just think the card honestly limits your play lines. I know everything I just said doesn't sound that bad, but I just don't want to have a Rupture card that 9 times out of 10 is basically a 0 for 3, which I already can put like 20 of those in my deck, and it forces me to have to play a certain line that I might not want to play. It just really limits your play lines when you have the card in hand, in my opinion. And I can tell you right now, when I took the card out of my deck, it severely upped the consistency of my deck. I didn't have as many bricked hands. Now, if you draw into like 2 of these and a blue and then a starter, it's also a little bit different as well. Like it just depends on how you do things. If you have a deck that plays around it, then it's totally fine. If you have Rise from the Ashes, if you have Inflame possibly, if you have Flame Call Awakening, stuff like that to really get that Phoenix Flame recursion really good, then it can work. But in my opinion, most of the lists I'm starting to see evolve now, like as of recent, and I mean like the week 2 of the RTNs, you're not seeing a 3 of this card. You're seeing like a 1 or a 2 of. Sometimes you're seeing none of. It at the beginning of the meta as it's been short, but at the beginning of the meta you saw a 3 of in every deck. Now you're starting to see a 2 of or a 1 of or just none. Because it hurts your consistency of your deck because it forces specific play lines. Just my opinion. Then you have other ones. Take the Tempo really doesn't have a tier. I don't mind this card. It's just good, right? You play it, threatens on hit, banish a card, play it until next turn. It's basically like the Break Tide, except without having to have combo. Really good card. I have a 1 of in my deck right now. Have had builds that had a 3 of. I think that this totally depends on what you're trying to do. I think in the aggro matchups, this is a fantastic card, but I think in other matchups, it's not as useful. It is a block 3. It does cost 1. So it really depends on what you value. Like between this and Rise Up, like do you want the 1 for 5 Dominator? Or do you want the 1 for 5 on hit discard? Or not discard, banish, play till next turn? Or do you want the 1 for 5 and Breaking Point on hit, destroy Arsenal? Yeah, I think it's meta dependent. And I think it depends on, who you're facing and what you're facing and kind of how that alters your decision making, right? So I guess I'll put it on the same level as Phoenix Form Rise Up. And then we have Searing Touch. This is on the same level as Red Hot. I'm not saying it can't be used. I'm not saying like if you use it, you're 100% wrong. But I do think that it's right now, it's just not as useful. It's basically a 1 for 5, like Rise Up and like is at its lowest and like Take the Tempo and Breaking Point. The problem is it really doesn't have an on hit effect. It just has when you attack with this, deal 2 damage to any target. So like it's good against Dromai. It could be good against Prism. It could be good against like other cards, but overall, because it has that lack, it's not that the card inherently is horrible. It's that compared to all the other cards, it's not good, right? So that's the issue. But yeah, the overall kind of gist I want people to get from this is that look at these cards as a value of consistency, not just power. Don't get drawn into the trap of saying like, what's the most powerful Rupture cards I can use? Start asking yourself like, what does this card look like when it's in this type of hand? What does it look like in this type of hand? And not like 1 in 100 scenarios, but like a normal hand. What's it look like with one starter in hand, one red starter? What's it look like with no starters in hand? Right? What's it look like when I draw into 2 blues? What's it look like when I draw into a blue and an Art of War? Right? You know what I mean? So do I want to banish this on Art of War? Am I comfortable with that? Like all this type of stuff. I think if you look at it in that sense, then you'll have a better idea of like how you want to build the deck. So that's just my thoughts. I think Rupture is like kind of the make or break when it comes to like Fi and like how consistent decks are. I've played a decent amount of mirrors so far. I have a pretty good win record against them, and I can tell you right now, the reason I'm winning more than I'm losing against a 5 mirror is because their deck is not as consistent turn to turn. Because in the mirror, you're going to want to be consistent. So that's just my thoughts. This is kind of like where I have the card structured as far as like how good they are, with the exception of Red Hot not being in here. But yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed this. If you agree or disagree, totally fine. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what type of content you want to see. Hopefully we can get some more stuff on the channel. Get some gameplays up soon. Work's been crazy lately, so I apologize for that. It's going to slow down here in a few weeks, which like come September, I'm already have a decent posting cadence, but come September, I'll really be posting regularly because work's going to slow down a little bit. But yeah, hopefully y'all have a good rest of your day, and I will see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.